Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Follow along today as I get this LS ready to mount up to the Tremec TKX by installing a power torque clutch set. All right, so if you remember from the last video, I installed the bell housing and checked it for run out. Everything came out well within tolerance, so onto the clutch install. This is a power torque clutch for a 2001 Chevy Camaro. It's getting sandwiched between an aftermarket TKX transmission and a 5.3 liter truck engine. So while these parts aren't technically supposed to go together, they will bolt up just fine. There are a few things I need to measure to make sure that the install goes smoothly. I may have to replace some of the pieces in this kit, primarily the pilot bearing. It all really depends on the input shaft of the transmission and also the depth of the bell housing. So I'll measure that. I'll do the clutch install and take you guys along for the ride. Okay, so step number one, you want to make sure you have a clean flywheel. This is sent out with machining oil on it. It prevents it from rusting while it's sitting on the shelf. That will completely contaminate your clutch. It'll cause chatter and all sorts of issues. So I do that first so I don't forget. I'm going to clean all the machining oil off of this as well as the pressure plate. You guys will notice a difference in the way the flywheel looks. Don't be afraid to go heavy on the brake cleaner. As you can see, it's pretty nasty. Perfect. That's what you want to hear.
Nice.
Perfect. Okay, so like I said, you also want to clean the friction surface on the pressure plate. Super important. There's no point in cleaning the flywheel if you're going to have a bunch of machining oil on the pressure plate as well. All right, pressure plate, flywheel, clean. Now I'm going to install the pilot bearing, but one important step first. Okay, so the pilot bearing, very important. Depending on the length of the input shaft on your transmission or the bell housing you're running, that's what will determine the correct pilot bearing for your application. If you look here, I have two different size pilot bearings. If you notice on the inside of the crankshaft here, there are two different surfaces. There's a step that goes into a smaller diameter here. So what I'm going to do is measure the depth of my input shaft, and that will determine which bearing is correct for my application. Straight edge, tape measure. All I'm doing is laying the straight edge across the bell housing of the transmission, not applying too much pressure because I don't want to deflect and throw off my measurement. So that's flush, it's flat. I'm gonna throw the tape up there. I'm gonna measure in two spots just to account for the thickness of the straight edge. I'm coming in at 3/8 of an inch. That tells me it's the larger bearing that sits closer to the transmission. Remember, there's two steps inside the crankshaft. The smaller one is further, which is going to take a longer snout. The larger one is closer, which is going to take the shorter snout. In this case, we have the shorter snout, bigger bearing. Let's install it. I'm going to clean the inside of the crankshaft before pressing this into place. I'm just going to use a large socket that fits the diameter of this and then hammer it in with a mallet. Okay, so when installing it, you want to make sure you have something that's going to press it in that's the same or roughly the same diameter. This is a 30mm socket, perfect size. It's going to fit perfectly while also not hitting the outside of the crankshaft here. So this will fully seat the bearing and install it perfectly straight. So I'm going to do that. Okay, it's in, it's flush, and it's fully seated. You'll know it's fully seated when the noise changes. If you'll notice, that's a solid sound. Now that it's straight, it's in, and I'm out of breath, I'm gonna go drink some water. Okay, now let's mount up the disc. Keep in mind, there is a right side and a wrong side here. If you look here, it says flywheel side on the back side of the clutch disc. It's going to flip around. It's going to go this way. If I tried bolting it up backwards, these springs are going to interfere with the flywheel and the hardware here, and it's not going to sandwich it properly when I go to mount up the pressure plate. So clutch installation tool goes into the splines and then into the pilot bearing. The reason for this is to ensure once the pressure plate is bolted up, the clutch disc is centered along the center line of the crankshaft. So when we go to mount up the bell housing of the transmission, That input shaft goes straight in and there's no problems. Next is the pressure plate. This surface is cleaned with brake cleaner. It is worth noting that there are dowel pins that locate the pressure plate on the flywheel. I want to line those up and then put it on straight and bolt it in place. Clutch disc is in place. It's centered and aligned thanks to the alignment tool. The pressure plate is located over the dowel pins, so that's properly situated. Up next, I'm going to take these ARP fasteners and coat them with this orange thread locker from Permatex. This stuff is great because it has 3 times the holding power of the blue thread locker. Perfect for this application. It's important to note that when you install these, you really need to pay attention to make sure you're going in a crisscross pattern, because the pressure plate is held away from the flywheel with the spring pressure. So there's a gap that you have to slowly close by crisscrossing the bolts as you tighten them. So I'm going to snug all these up by hand. I'm going to do it in 3 steps. I'm going to do 15, 20, and then 35. Okay, making sure that this alignment tool is properly centered still. You should be able to move it in and out freely. And then I'm gonna, like I said, do this in 3 stages. 15, 20, 35 in a crisscross pattern. Same thing as if you were installing a wheel. Okay, so the first step is done. I can remove the alignment tool, so that's good. Now I'm gonna go from 15 to 20. It's a small jump, but I want this to go on as evenly as possible. Okay, now to 35. Okay, that's a done deal. So, how do you know you did it correctly? By how easily this tool comes out. If you go to yank this out and it's binding, or it takes a lot of force to remove it, you're gonna have to loosen these pressure plate bolts, recenter the disc, and then re-torque them in sequence. This should not bind. Up next, I'm going to lubricate the input splines of the transmission. I'm going to order up a hydraulic throwout bearing and measure the end gap. Super important, that'll be the next video. And then I think I will mount up the accessories, the alternator and the power steering pump with the ICT billet accessory drive that I have. And this thing should pretty much be done. So I'll start working on the car here pretty soon. Stick around. Thanks for watching.